Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter what time of day it is for you. I want to welcome you to this week's episode of the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network, or we could call it the show that opened with Jerry hitting the wrong button a while ago, because there's so many buttons over here on the right on StreamYard. I just hit the wrong one. It went into the second countdown timer, and then had to correct it with our opening stuff. So anyway, we want to welcome you today. And today's episode has a topic that we think it is very timely, and it's something that hopefully is going to help anyone that's listening in. And not only that, we're going to give you access to a free tool today that we put together that we think can help you in moving to your business dreams in 2023. So our episode today concerns, what do you do here at the end of 2022? How do you take a really strong look at the past year? And what are the things that you need to do to make 2023 a year that you get closer to making your business dreams into your business realities? So, Brandi, what you're thinking about today's episode and the subject matter?
Well, we have to plan. If we don't plan for the next year and set some realistic, smart goals, we're going to find ourselves having the same conversation next year and having not moved the needle forward whatsoever.
Yeah, very true. It's just like in your business and what you're doing, you've got some really big plans for classes that you're going to be presenting in 2023 that you're actually sitting up in the learning loft right now. Am I correct? That's going to be your new classroom of where you're sitting right now. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep. I love it up here.
So you need to be looking at what Brandi's curriculum is for 2023. It's going to be some phenomenal stuff. If you're certified by any of the certifying agencies, Brandi, these classes all have CEUs for recertification. Am I correct?
That is correct.
That's it. And she's got your hotels lined up, all the arrangements and all that. But all of her classes do have a size limit. So you want to sign up and make sure you get in there. And she's going to be doing some of these classes more than once in 2023. So Sheryl, same question to you. What's your thought process on today's episode and what we're planning on sharing about 2022, looking at it and putting together 2023?
Well, basically, the thing we're sharing today should give them a good outline, a good basis to look at, basically a good thought system. You're not left a chance. You know, the 1 year New Year's resolution. This is fixing it, not just promising it.
That's it. So one of the most important things, and every time you hear someone talking about business, Brandi, have you ever heard anybody say it's all about the numbers and you've got to know your numbers? Have you ever heard that in a discussion or anywhere?
Of course, all the time.
So what I want to do is I want you to understand what knowing your numbers means, because a lot of people don't understand this. But as you look at your business, can you tell someone where your business is coming from? Can you tell someone which areas of your business are the most profitable? Can you share with someone what products, what services do you offer? Can you also look at your business and say, hey, these are areas of the business that suck, and maybe we need to stop doing these type of things. Maybe we have to take a look at that. So Brandi, as you look at Blues Brothers, is that one of the things that you have done in your career there at Blues Brothers?
Yeah, always. And we're always waiting to close out the end of the year so we can run all of our reports to see how many caps did we sell last year? How many chase covers did we do? What was our volume like month over month? And I even like to compare it with the last couple of years. It's a little tricky now because if we go back 3 years, then we're hitting to when COVID started. And so that was a little bit different for our industry. I think we were all probably busier during COVID than we're finding ourselves this time this year. But we have to be able to map it out and go with those ebbs and flows.
Okay. So Sheryl, same token, you run a manufacturing company, and in manufacturing, you've got to be manufacturing product that is in demand. If you're capable of producing product and it's not an in-demand product, then you could be suffering some real financial losses. So tell me, what do you look at from the manufacturing standpoint for your IBD outdoor rooms?
The main thing you look at the quantity of work you've produced, your margins. Did you make what you needed to make? I mean, we go down, we do almost penny for penny comparisons. And so I know what every product costs going out. The hard part of that is product this past year has gone, it's been a seesaw. It's gone extremely high. It's come down a little slightly. You have to vary your prices a little bit, or you'll be out of business if it hangs up there for any amount of time. So I have to be aware at the moment on piece to piece. Then you look at the whole year. Ours is different every year. 1 year, I mean, because we're continually getting new clients, or some have moved on to build their own. So it's not quite as steady as a chimney service business.
Okay, so Sheryl, let me ask you this. One of the things that's very important is to know if you're profitable. So you make custom product. And when you're making custom product, every product that rolls out is a different product. How do you know if you are profitable on each of these custom products that roll out the door?
We have a tracking where we count every, all the metal in there, all the hardy board. I know what the screws cost. I mean, I like getting down to that point. We know how many feet it takes to make. I know exactly what it costs a foot. And then you compare it against the price of metals and the price of everything else. We do this on every piece, other than we do sell a bunch of stock fire pits. I don't do it on my fire pits because that's repetitious. But anything custom going out the door, there is a total sheet prepared on each of them.
Yeah. And Brandi, and you work with a lot of clients, and you are a certified Service Titan consultant. So we're seeing people now that are developing much more elaborate systems, shall we say, for this job costing. So in working with companies, how important is job costing to know if you're profitable?
Well, it's very important. And, we see across the country a huge range of what people are charging for their services in the chimney and fireplace industry. And some of those people are doing it blindly, and they have no idea what their payroll percentage is, what they're spending in fuel. And that's a really scary, dangerous place to be, and a good way to put yourself out of business. What I love about, you brought up Service Titan, is it just does a lot of the work for you. As long as the information that you're putting into the system is good and accurate, then you can pull all of that reporting and it does it for you.
Okay, so let me touch on something here, Brandi, and that is, you just said the key thing. You believe that Service Titan is a management tool, but the key thing is some people have a real difficulty in implementation of this software. And when you look at it, that's often where you get called in. In fact, I think you have a call set up later today for a new user of Service Titan to kind of be their guide to go through. So when people find that their software is not failing, what's the general reason why the software doesn't meet their expectations?
Well, it can be several things. It can be that they didn't set it up right. With Service Titan, they come out with updates monthly, and it can be that they haven't kept up with the updates. I got a call late last night from a client needing to do a refund, and the payment screen has changed a little bit since the latest update came out. And I said, well, do you have the refund workflow turned on? And they had no idea what I was talking about. And that was an update from like 3-4 times ago. So then a lot of companies don't keep up on the updates. So the software looks completely different 6 months to a year from now. But going back to that information that you put in, the other reason can be just because they're putting bad information into the system. I kind of laugh. You'll see people trying to tout their numbers on Facebook. Like, we have like a 80% call booking rate. Well, that depends on how you're putting in that information and what you're putting in and counting as a lead or not. I see usually the opposite, where I have a client and I'm like, there is no way that you are this bad. There's no way that you're only booking 23% of your leads. And again, it goes back to, they have the wrong information put in there. They're classifying it wrong, or they're not classifying it at all. So it's a tool, but it has to be set up and used correctly.
Correct. And a lot of stuff like this we used to do, but we would have to do by hand. We would build an Excel format. So somebody physically had to enter this information into the system. And now we have an electronic system that can give us these things. It's like one of the things that I do in my job over as I visit clients usually twice a year. And I've just completed 4 visits in the last 2 weeks in completely different areas of the country and going out and seeing how these companies are progressing. And here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing companies that are getting into the waste tracking. They're tracking their waste. They're finding out where the things are going awry. It was like one client shared with me this week. Guess how many hours they had spent in a hardware store in the year 2022, Brandi?
I'm going to say 36, 52.
52. Sheryl, what would you say?
100.
Are you ready for this? 1,800 trips to the hardware store.
Oh, I thought you said hours.
Oh, yeah, I thought hours too. I didn't know trips, but
Well,
still.
Right. But again, how long's a trip to the hardware store? If you go in there, could that be an hour? It most certainly could. But when it came up and we looked at this told us that this is time that's being wasted by a installation crew that's not on job sites. And the thing about it is just like the airline industry, if that plane is not in the air, it's not earning revenue. It's not earning revenue at the gate. Brandi, what's your favorite airline to fly on?
Southwest.
Southwest Airlines. So if we look at Southwest Airlines, why do you like Southwest Airlines as a customer?
Well, part of it's because I'm in Kansas City, and so they are very convenient here, and they fly a lot of places direct. Part of it is because we have their credit card, so I get free points. And part of it is because it's very easy to get business class and for me to get the exit row.
There you go. So you see all that reasons why she likes it as a customer. Now, I don't like to fly Southwest, okay? As Brandi knows, I'd hate that cattle car crap where you line up and you feel like a robot going in, but I have flown it. But what I admire about Southwest Airlines is Southwest has known for the quickest turnaround time in the industry because they figured out to be profitable, that plane's got to be in the air. Not only that, their employees are only paid for the time that the wheels are up. In other words, the flight attendants, the pilots, they're not paid for that time boarding the plane, sitting there, greeting the passengers and all that. They also do something else, which is when you fly on a Southwest Airlines flight, you're on a Boeing 737 plane. They fly one kind of plane. And by doing that, they have one parts, and all planes can be flew by any pilot. There's not 15 different brands of planes. They're not flying Boeings and Airbuses like I'm an American Airlines customer. Reason why I'm American Airlines? Because when you live in Charlotte, if you want to go anywhere, you're probably going to be on an American airline to get there, even though there's times I fly on United because of the destination. In fact, I got a trip coming up in January. And to get to that location, American doesn't get me there in an expedient manner. So I switch over to United, which gives me the horrors because I know I got to stop in Denver, Colorado. And I've got a real bad track record with the Denver, Colorado airport. I spent a night there this past year. So I've got those fears coming in. Will they get me there in time to get my connection flight home? But again, these are the things. So what you've got to do is track as a customer. So Sheryl, what's a company that you really love to do business with?
Actually, it's one of my dealers or distributors. Phoenix Metal. Love to work with those guys.
Okay, why do you love to work with Phoenix Metals? Because we live in Charlotte. There's other metal suppliers such as Yard Metals and others. So why do you like to work with Phoenix Metals?
Number one, it's the people there. I mean, if I can't get my rep, I've got everybody's phone number, I think, in my phone. If I can't get my rep to get what I needed, I call his manager. If his manager's not available, I can get the other guy. I can get what I need anytime within 24 hours. And we have a weird dock system. So we have to back unload, different from a lot of other companies, but just because we're in an old mill building and the way we have to do, they accommodate me to no end. In fact, what's today? Thursday, Tuesday, when I was at the shop, the Phoenix Metal rep actually came in and we sat and had a good conversation. But it's their exceptional service. It's their timing. They're always in contact with me, even though I don't use stainless steel. They send me stainless steel updates and things because they know in your business, you deal with a lot of chimney service companies that sell stainless steel products. So even though I don't use them, they know I have people that can use the information. They're a super company to work with.
Okay. And who do you dread buying from?
Oh God, what list does that work on? I hate going to Home Depot. I hate with a passion. We have a Lowe's and a Home Depot close enough. I can go to Lowe's, and if Lowe's doesn't have it, we're forced into Home Depot. But they're just not as customer friendly. Is that a good way to do it? And I say that because Lori and I are usually the ones that go, mainly Lori. We're females. Lowe's they look at us as a contractor, where Home Depot looks at us as a female with a stupid question.
Okay. So Brandi, we're up at the end of the year. We're getting ready to go into 2023. So as you end up the year at Flues Brothers, what do you and Jeremy look at to tell you where you were good and where you missed the mark in 2022?
Well, obviously, definitely all the different KPIs and our finances, but I think it's more deeper than that. And it goes to what Sheryl said, the people. That's another thing that I really enjoy about Southwest is they make jokes on the plane. And I just want to be happy when I fly. There's a place called Scooter's Coffee. It's a franchise here that I go to for my smoothies. And I don't really think I go there as much for the smoothies as I go there for their team. They're always happy. They're always chipper. They're always telling me to have a good day. And it's just such an enjoyable experience. So turnover is another thing that you need to look at within your company. What was your turnover last year and why? Because that can also be a key indicator. What was your new customer acquisition? What is your retention of your customers? The list is gigantic. I think part of it comes into what do you want to focus on for 2023 and then work your way back and look at how you did on those things in 2022 to make your plan going forward.
And I was listening to a podcast this week with our friend Tommy Mello. And what Tommy Mello was talking about this week on his podcast I listened to was all the various KPIs. And if you're listening to us, if you don't know what KPIs are, those are your key performance indicators. These are the things that you can look at and tell you how successful you are. Looking at it, what is the callbacks? Like Brandi, as we get people into waste tracking, and we both know how difficult it is, we've done classes on it, and we educate people, and we keep working on this. In fact, one of the things that we sent to all of our clients this year was these, and we call them hourglasses, but be honest with you, this is more like an egg timer, I guess, because it's been said that the sand goes out in 15 minutes. Some people say 20 minutes. But what it was to illustrate the waste that's going through the fingers in the business commonly of what's happening out there. So again, how do people track this? How much of this information can you pull up out of your software right now, Brandi?
Well, you talked about callbacks. You can certainly, as long as you're classifying those right within Service Titan or whatever other CRM you're using, whether it be House Call Pro, if you'll locate any of those, you can pull up that information quite easily. How many callbacks you had, which tech had the most callbacks, what lost revenue came into that. I was thinking back to your person that you said 1,800 trips to the hardware store?
Yeah.
So with that, was it things that they weren't stocking? Like, is that stuff they should be stocking in the warehouse and they're not?
Yes. When you look at it, it's like, have you ever figured how many nuts, bolts, and screws you use in your company every year? Now with Sheryl's company, she's in manufacturing, so nuts, bolts, those type of things. Those are key considerations, because without those products, Sheryl, you can't assemble your product. Am I correct?
That's correct. And every time you run out, it's a trip, and it's an immediate trip if they don't let you know prior to hand. So we try to keep enough in stock that we're not continually running backwards and forwards, and definitely not getting caught without.
Right. And what you're probably using is a company that can supply your, I'm going to call it hardware needs, I believe. Are you still using Fastenal for this?
Still use Fastenal. They get most of ours, a lot of our nails. Some of our products we just get out of Lowe's because of the cost factor.
Okay, but I know that Fastenal has a program where they have stocking programs where when you get to a certain point, they're automatically restocking your system. Now, some people even have the Fastenal vending machines to where it's counting the product that's going out, so you can have an automatic reorder of what's needed. Some years ago, Sheryl and I had some friends, and they were in the fastener business, and that's what John did. John would go out and visit the people and would see and would do an inventory count as a customer service to supply them, and they developed a very lucrative mom and pop business supplying the hardware needs of suppliers. But again, you got to take a look at your business at the end of each year to start putting it together. So I want to share with you the free gift that we want you to use. This is a tool that we have put together, and we do this every year. I've been doing this going back to about 2012 when I did my first one. So I'm gonna come up and show you what we're talking about here and how to get to this as soon as I can get the right one up here. Let's see here. Hey, guess what? StreamYard has changed the way to present a screen. This is going to be good here. So bear with me just a minute as I figure out how to share my screen on StreamYard since they changed it. Here we go. So like I said, this is what happens. It all the time happens. People change the system, Brandi, but that's what you got to do, is figure out how to make it work. So to find the tool that we're talking about, you're wanting to go to our company website, which is CVC Success Group, and that's what you're looking at. Somebody says, Jerry, that's a really angry picture of you up there. So that's the video that'll play if you go to the website. And then you scroll down the website. Okay, so Sheryl, do you see where it says click here to download the year-end self-analysis form?
I can see it, yes.
Okay, so what you're going to do, you're going to click on that. And once you click on that, it's going to bring you up this form in a Word document. And now you want to click enable, just like what I've done there. It'll make it work.
We can't see that part yet, Jerry. We're still seeing click to download the year end.
Okay, you can't see it. Okay, so let me see if I got to change my, probably going to have to change the screen here. Like I said, bear with us. Bear with me just a minute, and I'm going to try to get this back up so we can share that photo with you there. And let's see here. This is not work. Okay, so here we go. So can you see it now? Okay, so what this is what we put together every year in December, and this is a year-end self-analysis worksheet, and it's also what you're going to use to set your goals for the coming year. So in this worksheet, you see it's all three of us have worked on this. So what you're finding there is a lot of questions that are simply a yes or no goal. So as you look at that, it asks you the questions you need to ask yourself. Have you clearly defined your products or services? Do you have a pricing strategy that's bringing you the profit you set your goal for? So we go through a lot of things about sales and marketing in this form, okay? And in the sales and marketing, there are, let's see how many, we have a total of 39 questions that you ask yourself. And what this is going to tell you is, which activities do you excel in? How many are you average in? How many do not even exist? And then you have a place to put your notes that you get from this. Then we go through the operations from the same standpoint to take a look at everything of what you need to do. And here, it also has it about how important are these OSHA forms, Brandi? If somebody gets called up, how important is to have this OSHA 300 form filled out if you have 10 or more employees.
You better have them, and you better have them from the previous years, and they better be correct and easily accessible.
Right. You also have the question here: are you utilizing this behavior assessment with your your existing team members and with any new hires? Sheryl, how important is understanding the DISC of others?
I think it's extremely important. I mean, it's a way of knowing their personality, a way of how to speak with them, how to have them speak with you. You understand, I'm going to call it quirks for lack of a better word, the things that you just don't know because you're with that person. So with the disc in front of you, you can tell what kind of person they are, what they're capable of, and how to deal with them, how to communicate. Mainly communicate.
You're right. So you look here, then we go to the administrative side of your business where we track, we record, and we report sales daily by person, profit center, product, and service. So Brandi, how important is that to know as you end up a year of who made you money, who didn't? Is these important things to know?
You bet. And also projecting for the upcoming year.
Correct. So, and there you see, we have a budget that serves as a financial GPS. So again, we're just going to keep going down, but this form you can download straight off of our website, CVC Success Group. Now, as you keep going through, you'll see there's even an area to assess your leadership. You ask the question, there's one, do we have an effective, up-to-date employee handbook? Brandi, how important is that from the human resources side?
It's got to be up to date. It's got to, yes, of course, be effective. Everybody has to know how to access it. Everybody has to have signed it. And most importantly, it needs to comply with all of your local, state, and federal laws.
There you go. We have an accountability chart, written job descriptions, identifying the expectations. Sheryl, how important is it for people to know their expectations?
If you can't expect anything of anybody if you don't exactly know what you're expecting. And you need to know what people are expecting of you also.
Yep. And this is an important one to ask yourself. Can your business operate and exist without you? And why is this so important? Brandi, I'll even bring this back to Blues Brothers. If something happened to either Jeremy or Brandi, how can the company still go forward?
Yes, it can. We have key people in place that could move it forward. Unfortunately, if it can't operate with you, even today, like if you were to be injured, then you don't actually have a business.
Yeah. So Sheryl, let me turn that back to you. You own a manufacturing facility. However, you spend more time working in human resources and hiring for other companies. Right now, as the owner of a manufacturing company, how many hours a week do you spend as average on IBD outdoor rooms?
4.
4 hours a week.
4 to 5.
Brandi, how does that hit you when she says she's running a successful manufacturing business and she only donates about 4 hours a week to it?
I like it.
That's what I mean. It's telling you that things are going well. So we go through all this, and it's going to have analysis on your personal. Are you an effective leader? If things don't go as planned, do you look at yourself first and do not randomly level the blame? So we have an area of personal analysis. And as we scroll down through here, what you're going to find is we have a place for you to score yourself. Again, this is strictly from you looking at yourself. Where is the areas that you excel? Where are you average? And what areas of your business need work? So and then we come up to what we call the wheel of success. Is your wheel round? And to be honest with you, we robbed this idea from the Ziglar system and what Sheryl learned as a Ziglar trainer and coach. And we divided your business into 5 different segments. So Sheryl, how important is it that each of those spokes is an equal length and operating to make that wheel go round? How did Ziglar use this in their philosophies?
Well, we can live with a screwed up wheel. You can live with it, but it runs so much smoother if you're balancing. if everything is equal, then the wheel turns. If the money's paying for the product and the product's providing what you need and it's doing the system, your wheel becomes round. And I'm using that in the business sense. Also, you've got to realize that anytime one part of the business is failing, it's making it harder on a different part and pulling it down. So without equalizing that wheel out, you're hitting that off spoke every now and then, and it just puts a hindrance on the business.
Okay. So then what we put down is to drill down to put together your goals. And this is commonly what people say when it's time for New Year's. They say New Year's resolutions. And my opinion is resolutions are out the window. It's time to compose what your commitments are for 2023. See, this is what so often happens. People make resolutions. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But are they true commitments to where you're going? And to be successful, to get where you want to go, you got to have those commitments. So Sheryl, going back to what you learned in Ziegler training, what's the importance of not having goals, but rather having commitments to doing these things?
Goals are just promises. They're promises that you make to yourself and you attempt to make to others. A goal, you need to progress towards to actually doing something instead of just promising it. And I hate to say that's what a New Year's resolution is, because by the middle of January, most of them are broken.
Right. So in the center of this, you see, I stopped this on something, because to me, this is a number one failing for so many businesses. In fact, one of my clients notified me this past week. They sent me a text and they told me that they had terminated one of their employees. And in talking to him earlier today, I said, if you had made this decision earlier, how much of a difference would it make in your business? So this is a big one right there. Do you have members of your team that are handcuffing you from moving to where you want to go? Brandi, do you see people that you work with have a great big anchor on them because they've got people, they are fearful of termination, of letting these people go?
Yeah, I was just reading a post last week. Gosh darn it. I can't remember if it was our industry or another industry. I want to say it was our industry. And it was somebody saying that they had just let go their highest producing employee. And it made me so proud. I do want to go back, Jerry. I've been sitting on my hands waiting for you to call up on me, which is hard for me, as you know. Can you go back to that wheel for a second?
Sure.
I have something to say on all of these, of course. So going back to that wheel real quick, I'm probably going to disagree with Zig here for a moment. I would say if you're a sole business owner or a co-business owner, the problem that I see is that personal is really, really, really tiny, because we're spending so much time in all the other areas. And in fact, I think the personal should actually be a little bit wider there at the bottom, because if you're not paying attention to the personal part and you're not taking care of yourself, having date night, spending time with your family, there's no point in having the business, because that's why we go into business, is to be able to have those perks and benefits. And then if you'll scroll down to the goals, I wanted to talk about the problem with goals is a lot of people make them too generic. So for example, they'll say, I want to hire more people in 2023. You're not going to get anywhere with that goal. So that's why I like SMART goals. And I pulled it up so I could make sure I didn't mess up any of the letters. So SMART, so it needs to be specific. So I want to hire 4 new technicians in 23. It needs to be measurable. Obviously I can measure if I hire 4 or 2 or 5. It needs to be assignable. So who's that person that's going to be in charge of putting out that ad, recruiting, and doing the hiring? It needs to be realistic. So hiring 4 technicians in 2023 is probably realistic. But if I say I want to hire 30 technicians, that's probably not realistic for most people for that amount of growth. And then it needs to be time related. So I want to do this by June, or I want to do this by the end of 2023. But it's really important that you use that SMART acronym for those goals, or honestly, you're just going to be writing down the same goals next year and you won't have accomplished anything.
I understand. So again, those are the things that we work with people on from a coaching aspect, because so often people know where they want to go, but they just get tied up in the words of Sheryl and Brandi, the minutia. Sheryl, what does the word minutia mean? You use that a lot. So what does minutia? Tell me, as a person that's not real familiar with that word. Tell me what minutia means.
I'm a visionary. So I enjoy setting the projects up. I enjoy starting the projects and do it. I don't like doing the minutia, which is the little things. The stuff that makes stuff work. That's the other people that I need in my business. Will I do them? Yes. But it's the main part of the business because that's what gets things done. And it's everything basically that I don't like doing.
That's what I mean. So that's somebody we say will get caught in the weeds. They just can't get out. And like I said, it goes back to the traction book by Gino Wickman, where are you a visionary? Are you an integrator, or what we call an implementer? And that's commonly if we're doing a joint interview where we are all three involved with the business owner and doing an interview for an operations manager, a higher level person in the company. That's one of the questions that we want to ask. Is this person a visionary, or is this person a implementer? And this is what many business owners need. They need an implementer. In fact, one of my business this week involved with one of my clients that about a year ago, they hired a systems implementer within the company. And to be honest with you today, this guy has made incredible differences that you can now see how this has benefited the company in the area of their numbers and their culture. You can when I walk on the property, and I was there, you could sense a completely different culture. But this took a lot of, it took being very brave. How do you get this bravery to make change that you need to make, Brandi? What's your thoughts of where does a person find this bravery?
Well, I mean, we're all fearful to a point, which is actually good. People think of fear as a bad thing. Fear is actually a good thing. It's what saves us a lot of times. As far as bravery, I think it goes into just educating yourself, finding other business owners to talk to, or if you're an employee, employees at other companies to talk to figure out what's working, what's not, going to classes to learn how to implement these things. The more you do something, the more you'll get comfortable with it. So the bravery just comes along naturally.
Yeah. Cheryl, what's your viewpoint on the bravery it requires to make changes?
It takes a lot. I mean, the change is not normal for most people. They have to actually work at it. And that's part of the reason that I like the graph that we're talking about, because it shows me where I need to be brave at and make the decision. And can I explain one thing about the graph before someone watching this may not understand exactly what they were looking at because they couldn't see it?
Of course you can.
I knew I could. The graph, even though it's divided into sections, that's not the size of the section it will be. I think you still have 10 points on yours, if I'm correct. You have points on it. And if you are an 8 in personal, you put it there, and a 6 in this, and a 10 in that. And then you connect the dots. So you could have all low and it would still be a round wheel. But if you got a high, a low, a medium, then your wheel gets very jagged. I didn't want anybody to look here and think that there was any way in possible life that you could commit the same amount of time to every quadrant.
Yep, that's it. But it's deciding where do you need to dedicate this. And Cheryl, I think this is where your point of view that we developed with Larry Winget and when we went through training is so important. And actually, you made the title of one of your books. I'm glad I did. Do what it says to not say I should have. And I think that is a foremost thought for people to go into a new year. And this is commonly what I ask people. What do you want to be talking about at the end of 2023? What's the accomplishments that you would like to say that are trophies on your wall that you've accomplished? Because we all have to continuously work to be better, okay? We so often get tied up into, hey, things are pretty good right now. Well, see, this is a true fact. I honestly believe that 2023 is going to be a very different year. I think we're going to see a dedicated change in the economics of this country in the coming year. I'm also thinking that we're going to see a lot more people looking for employment in 2023. I think we're going to have more choices to make. I think it's going to turn, this whole situation is going to turn because there's a lot of corporate companies. If we look at Facebook, we look at Twitter, and a lot of other companies, they are actually cutting back and laying off workforces. And I think there's going to be more available workers. And I've said this for years, the thing that it's going to take to change this hiring recruiting situation, we don't want to go through, but it's probably going to be a recession. And if we look at this of what's happening, things are going to change. So you got to put your plans together well. So feel free to go to our website, please, and pull this self-analysis form up for 2022. When you end the year, know what this year produced. What were the good things? What were the bad things? And put together your course of action for 2023. And if you're not doing it, you've heard us talk about before how important it is to have a SWOT meeting, to go over the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the fears. If you need help on this, you can reach out to us. You see our email address is up. If you're going to do a SWOT, you need a trained facilitator to do this. It's not something, it can do more damage unless you actually have the processes. And Brandi, have you seen how we've refined this process from when you first got involved with it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I feel like each time we learn a little something new to make it even better.
That's it. So feel free to reach out if this is a process you need help with. So Sheryl, close it out today. What would be your words of wisdom from a very wise person to go and look at of what you need to do for 2023 to be talking about great things at the end of 2023?
Well, my wisdom is, I know there's things in our life right now that you're saying, I wish I would have done. I wish I would have got this area of my business better. Whatever you do, take the time now to get yourself set so at this time next year, you're not repeating that same sentence on the same problem.
So don't repeat the madness. Would that be a good way to condense what you just said?
Get off the rodent wheel.
Okay. And Brandi, from your aspect, what do people need to be heading into 2023? What's the thought process to take them to that level they envision?
Well, I think they need to, right now, if they're listening, go to their calendar at this moment and go to the website, download the tool, and set aside time on your calendar to dedicate to filling out this tool. Because if you're filling it out right, it should take quite a while to analyze each question and see how you're doing. And then schedule another date, possibly another couple days later, give yourself some time in between to actually start setting up goals for each of those. And of course, it can be tricky to figure out, and that's why we're here to help. If you need help with some of those, if you're not quite sure how to implement where you want to be, that's what we're here for, is to help guide you. We work with a lot of companies, so we get to see a lot of how other companies do things, and we kind of know what works and what doesn't work.
That's it. So going from there. So Brandi, one more question for you. You're doing a training, quite a few trainings next year. So I want to concentrate on two of the trainings you're doing. One is for leadership in the office management segment, and the other is your CSR training that's going to be done, that is sponsored by the National Chimney Sweep Guild. Why should people consider that this is a expense that is going to pay a significant return on the investment?
Well, I'll start with the office management one, which is a 2-day workshop that's extremely intense. If you look at what the tuition costs for that workshop, it is a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of what it's going to cost if you get sued over not having the right things in your handbook, or not asking the right questions during an interview, or terminating an employee and then getting a wrongful termination lawsuit, etc. It's also a tiny, tiny fraction of what you would spend to have a lot of waste if you don't have somebody properly trained to carry out these day-to-day functions in your office. Because going back to, there should be somebody in your office and not you as the business owner that can manage that day to day. And then as far as the CSR class, that is a that's a 2-day class as well. CSR Basics, that one is sponsored by the NCSG. So the tuition rate is actually a little bit lower, quite a bit lower, because they help offset the cost of that. And that takes a CSR from down here all the way up here. We did this class first last spring at the Chimney Expo, ended up filling the class over what capacity we had said we could handle, just because there were so many people that wanted in the class. And if you go to the CVC Success Group now and look on the Google reviews, and you can see a lot of the reviews from that class. And people, in fact, I'm getting calls now from some of those same people asking to send their office managers to the office management class, or asking to send other CSRs that they've hired since then to the CSR class. So they're just very valuable, and you will see a return on your investment for those, I promise.
There you go. So like I said, just to be honest with you, if they go in, if they can learn how to implement, how to identify, how to track the waste in the company, which can be a phenomenal amount of money. And phenomenal is not a good word to use here because it's bad. But I mean, a vast amount of money, if they can learn how to recoup that, believe me, that alone is going to pay for the cost of your tuition to this and your travel expenses. It's going to have a fast turnaround. And
plus we have the best barbecue.
And you got some of that lousy Kansas City barbecue, because I'm from North Carolina, where they have better barbecue than in Kansas City. Okay. We may send you a care package out there of some North Carolina barbecue for this. Okay. So, but anyway, yeah, they're going to treat you to some Kansas City barbecue. You get to see a class operation in process here. So think about this if you haven't done it. So I want to appreciate you being a listener to our broadcast, our episodes. We do this to share with our listeners the ways to move to their business dreams. You know, running a business is not easy. Running a business is hard work. And operating a successful business is going to involve something that's called change. It would be really nice if you could foresee 3 years, 5 years down the road, but it can't be done. Just think back. We went through this horrible episodes of COVID. Nobody knew what to expect. This came out of the blue, and it's affected, and things have been affected, and things are changing throughout the industry. So appreciate you being with us. We're going to take the next 2 weeks off since it's a Christmas vacation time. It's a time of holidays. And also, so you'll know, Sheryl and I are going to take a few days off. Brandi has told us that we've got to spend some time, and Cheryl's already laid warnings on me that if I spend any time, I'm going to be in trouble. It's going to be a really bad episode down there. But hey, life is what life is. So we appreciate you joining us. We hope you have a most joyous holiday season. We hope this is a time that you remember the reason for the season and you spend this time with your family, but also review the year and decide how you're going to make the changes in 2023 to derive that business dream and turn your business dreams into your realities. It's going to be up to you. So with that, we'll see you in 2023 on the next episode of the Chimney and Fireplace Success